Welcome to another edition of What Barry's Talking About from Barry 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, we get the lowdown on provincial grants to help with emergency preparedness, be it an ice storm, snowstorm, tornado, flood. We'll hear from local MPP Jill Dunlop, who is also the Minister for Emergency Preparedness and Response. And we're all going to do it, but are we ready for it? Retirement. We explore some of the things you're going to need to know as you plan for it and what you might encounter when it finally happens. This with retired Essa Township Fire Chief Cynthia Ross Tustin, who's been keeping track of her adventures post-career. We get the conversation started after this. This is What Barry's Talking About from Barry 360. I'm Dan Blakely, joined by Cynthia Ross Tustin, an old friend of mine, former fire chief in Essa Township. And before that, ICU nurse,
Yep.
and you've been involved in helping people all your life by the sounds of it. And then all of a sudden you're retired. How's life treating you?
Well, it's fabulous. And I think I'd call us colleagues adjacent.
Okay, that works.
Colleagues
I'm going to write that
adjacent.
down because I'll forget it.
Yeah, well, there you go. Two good words. I'll give that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So retirement beckoned,
It
and
did.
you took that opportunity. Had you planned for it? Were you ready for it?
Well, I don't know if we all think we're ready for it, but I'm not sure we're as ready for it as we think. You know, the retirement advice is always get a hobby and make sure your finances are in order. And that's all true. It's all good advice, but I don't think people always realize everything they're giving up when they walk away from work. I know I was super excited not to be on call anymore and not to get up at January at 4 a.m. in a blizzard. But after that wears off, you really kind of have to start thinking, because we might call it retired, but it's not like the old days where you only had a few good years left. And most of us have, like yourself, we've spent decades building competence and friends and participating. And let's face it, the world revolves around work. So when they give you your Hallmark card and expect you to just go leisure off, you don't start realizing what you've given up until you leave. So, for example, most of us work 35 years. You and I are colleagues adjacent, but we're also friends. But when you leave work, the structure or the ecosystem or whatever you want to call it disappears. And you don't see those friends as often.
Right.
And you don't participate like you used to. And you know how you spent your whole life acquiring skills and people always telling you those skills are transferable? Well, I learned the art of reading smoke. Where am I going to transfer that skill to? We all know we're going to miss the people, but you don't know why they're so important to you. Or like work is a friendship factory, and it's also your competence container, right? You've got skills that you've taken decades to acquire and no place to use them. You have friends that you have worked with, especially in the fire emergency service. You're on the same shift with a crew, could be for decades. And they're part of your family. They know you as well as family. And overnight, they're gone. And sure, you'll keep in touch with them, but it is not the same as somebody stopping by your desk or sitting in the chair in your office.
Do you find that, I'll give you a call, and the call never comes?
I think people mean well. When people say, yeah, I'll give you a call or we'll do lunch,
Yeah.
I prefer breakfast, but I'm good with lunch. And they mean it when they say it. They're sincere. But life gets in the way, just like it did when I said it. I meant it, and I even wrote it on the Hallmark card, so it must be true. But, you just don't see them. Thank God for Costco, because I run into everybody at Costco.
So those people are still working. They haven't retired yet.
Correct.
They don't have the free time you have.
Right.
And so it's not as easy for them to just break away and do things anymore.
Right.
And it's nothing against you.
No, and it's nothing against them. Work created the ease. There's a word, it's called propinquity. And propinquity is when you always have contact. You just run into people. People are there. And the more often you do it, it becomes your new normal. So it's easy to go to lunch while you're working because you're with your colleagues. And let's face it, you're going to go bitch about the boss, right? That's why you're going to lunch. Yeah. So you have all these people with common interests that you have instant access to. Sometimes it's even just, casual access. You might not see the people from other departments, but you know them.
Yeah.
And there's great value in that connection. And it's gone almost overnight.
How long did it take for you to realize what was happening, and what did you do to counteract it?
Well, that's a really good question. It took me a couple of weeks, but no, maybe a couple of months because I needed to catch up on my sleep.
Yes.
But after that, it's not a crisis, although retirement, since we're all retiring and then living longer, could be the new midlife crisis. But it's a crisis in that it feels weird or itchy, not in the mental health, oh my God, we better come up with a new label for this condition. But it feels different, and you can't always put your finger on why. And I'm a trained observer, so I just kind of sat back and started observing and noticing. And then, if you've been a leader in any type of industry, you're always reading. I'm a voracious reader, and I started thinking, well, you know what? This actually connects to some of that leadership stuff. Not that I have any people to lead, but some of these pieces fit. So that's why I went back to my blog, and I switched it. So now I do the online publication, and I write about the observations, things like why it feels a little bit itchy, because you never realized all those pieces that you were missing. You thought you had just gotten enough money to go without the paycheck, and you knew you'd miss the people, but they already said they'd get together for lunch, so it was all going to be fine, right? And I know I Googled, what should I do with my retirement? And Google came back knitting. So I'm thinking, how old does Google think I am? Where am I going to go to figure this out? It ain't Google.
So it became an age of discovery for you, as opposed to, I'm going to put my feet up and travel, and you go to Costa Rica a couple times a year. So, But it's not just that.
Yes. So you can do all that as part of the process of acclimating, but we recognize other milestones in people's lives: graduation, marriage, birth of a child. We actually spend more time helping somebody celebrate or get through their divorce than we actually do with retirement, because everybody else is still in the work mode. And I have found that the way that people think about retirement is different. So yes, you need to go to Costa Rica, or yes, you need to take the trip. You need to do all those things. But we're from a generation that if you could just explain something to me, tell me why it's this way, I can cope with anything. And so I started applying what I'd read over the years and what I keep reading and putting all the pieces together with my observations. And that's what I spend my time doing. And that's what's helped me get through a bit of a program. You have to keep your routine, drink a lot of water, you have to do all those routine things, because you don't want to change your life as drastically as we sometimes do. And so I realized that a drastic stop was not the way to go, at least for me. Everybody does something. They need to do something.
Yeah.
I think retiring is just the event on that day. After that, nobody really wants to be thought of as retired because you're written off.
Well, it's the next step on the road of life, right?
It is, and that's where I was kind of going with it. It's adult 2.0, right? They give you a congratulations on your retirement. It should almost be a graduation card.
All that is being channeled into your website. I'm thinkingofretiring.com.
Correct.
Lots of blog posts. I've been reading some of them. The haircut one I got a good kick out of. You'll have to relay that for us.
Oh, well, I've always, since I moved to Barrie like 25 years ago, I've always gone to 3 small rooms. And after I'm finished getting my great haircut, they always say, do you want to book your next appointment? And I always had to say, no, I can't. Because I was always on call, and I carried a pager, especially with ESSA being so small. You go to all the calls. And I could never book an appointment, ever, because I always end up canceling it. And shortly a while ago, I had the appointment, and I went, and they said to me, "Do you want to book your next appointment?" And I just sat there, and then I went up. I said, "Sure," and I booked it. But I went out to the car, and I was kind of dumbfounded. I just sat there. That's when I realized my life was back to being my own, right? And it's those little ordinary moments where you're back to feeling like yourself again. Or maybe it's the new you that you've accepted. I don't know what the actual word is, but yeah, it's the little stuff that makes you realize.
Your latest blog post was interesting too, about looking back, and you're talking about Gen Xers,
Yes.
and what all of this means, and algorithms, and how we might look back thinking we want that time again, but we really don't.
No, I don't want to be 21 again. And anybody who says I have deep concern for anybody that thinks their best years were in high school. Deep concerns for those people. It's not better or worse than any other, but we're the last analog generation. We saw analog all the way until it switched to digital. And I said to my kids, I remember saying to kids, "Well, just dial the phone." Dial the phone. They don't know what you're talking about.
What's that?
Right? And I notice young people now excited about getting snail mail as long as it's not a bill. Getting a card or something is difficult. So from that perspective, we are the next or the last analog generation. We've had both. We had to use maps the old way.
Yep.
Paper and unfold them.
I still have one that I'm not getting rid of.
Don't get rid of it.
Not that I use it, but look what we used to have to do.
Yes, and it doesn't make us better, and it doesn't make us worse than the next generation, because they get to make fun of us, not knowing how to do something digitally, let alone reset the VCR, and it's not even a VCR anymore.
Yeah,
right.
It's crazy.
It's all of those things. So I am sure there will come a time in the future where there's another way. But right now, we are the last analog generation. We have a foot in both worlds. We embrace both. We like both, right? I read a book on a Kindle and I read a book in paper. I like both.
So I take it from all of this, you're enjoying retirement.
Oh, yes. There's lots to love, but there's also a lot of ordinary days. There's days you're kind of bored, but I don't think that's any different than you're bored at work. You just have to soldier through it. Mm-hmm. You can't wait to get inspired. You have to move and get inspiration from that, not the other way around. So I do like it. I love going to Costa Rica. It gives me a lot more time to write now. It gives me a lot more time to paint. And every now and then, those people who said they'd meet me for lunch do.
In Costa Rica?
Here, but mostly Costa Rica. Mostly Costa Rica.
That's great. You've also put together kind of a package, a retirement guide.
Yes.
Ask questions of yourself and get ready for this. So you are ready for this unexpected thing that's going to happen.
The unexpected feeling. Most of us have planned for retirement for years, unless you're forced to retire. But most of us have planned. It's just to help you deal with the itch that something's not quite right. And it's the guide I kind of actually wish I had when I had retired. That's part of the reason I wrote it. I kept all my observations and put it all down. But it's just to help you, A, get through it, and B, it's kind of a misery loves company, right? You realize you're not alone. Everybody who retires feels this way. And you can, walk yourself through this step by step and get through it quicker.
So people can get in tune with that on your website.
Correct.
Can catch up on everything you're up to on the website.
Yeah, they can try, but yes.
Well, yeah, you're a hard one to keep up with. And if people have questions or want to know more, can they reach out to you?
Absolutely. Actually, people do all the time, but yeah, they can get to me through I'mThinkingOfRetiring.com.
Have a look at it. You'll be amazed. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Province of Ontario has made another $5 million in funding available to help communities purchase essential equipment, deliver training, and strengthen local emergency response to help protect residents, property, farms, businesses, and natural spaces. Barrie 360's Ian McLennan gets the details from local MPP and Minister for Emergency Preparedness, Jill Dunlop.
Tell us about this grant, who qualifies, and what are the parameters?
It is $5 million. And it's for $50,000 grant for communities of a population of 100,000 or less. So this being the fourth round, I've had an opportunity to be out to many different communities, a lot within Simcoe County as well, to see the equipment that they have purchased. And it's really based on the community's needs and the what specifics they're looking for and what they see as potential emergencies in their communities.
Yeah, I was just going to say the request or what has been granted, whether it's the County of Perth, Eagle Lake First Nation, it really does vary in terms of what the requests are, and I guess nobody knows better than those communities.
Absolutely, and that's what I think is so important about this grant. And I've seen it in my own community. I was in Tay Township a couple of weeks ago where we were looking at the new equipment they purchased, and it was a pop-up evacuation center. And so in a community like that, it's so important because they don't have a regular recreation center. So having a pop-up one like this, they're able to move anywhere in the township under any situation. So there's lots of great equipment out there, and amazing to see what municipalities are purchasing.
And is it not just municipalities? Do the parameters go beyond that?
Yep, to First Nation communities as well as some organizations as well. In the 3 years that we've been running the program, we've been able to help 342 different communities and organizations.
And Minister, if I'm correct, under the Ford government emergency preparedness under the cabinet portfolio, it's a first, isn't it?
It is. So this was a brand new ministry in the middle of March 2025. And as you recall, and I certainly do, 2 weeks later, the ice storm hit my own riding and a lot of central Ontario. So it was good timing, and it shows the importance that we recognize that the severity of the natural disasters and emergencies that come along is increasing, and that we need to be prepared and to help ensure that our communities are prepared as well.
How challenging is it for the government, for you as a minister too, because we had the ice storm, correct? That was quite a wide swath of central Ontario, but even last summer with severe thunderstorms hitting places like Mattawa, they can be very localized too, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, when we look at this ministry, there really is the two pieces to it. There's the preparedness piece, which is what the grant is all about, and all the education that my ministry does to work with communities, to practice, to do training, but then also the response part, that when there are issues happen, like the ice storm or what we saw in Mattawa last year, the recent flooding, the wildfires. So we need to be prepared for all of those things, and then the response piece as well.
And then we go back to St. Catharines and Lincoln with states of emergency, and I know the mayor in St. Catharines was quite direct, but in terms of declaring an emergency, when a municipality does that free up funds from the province or the feds? How does it work, just to clarify for the public?
So there are declarations of emergency. I'd like to remind municipalities and mayors and leadership that they don't necessarily have to go down that route. Contacting my ministry through the Provincial Emergency Operations Center is number one. The province is going to be there to support no matter what. And so working with municipalities, working with the Community Emergency Management Coordinator, and what you'll see in a lot of smaller rural communities, that is typically the fire chief. And so they would reach out to the operations center, and all communities have their own emergency plans in place. And we're there to support along the way when they feel that they've reached capacity, or that it's, when you have something that quickly happens, like in St. Catharines, reaching out to us. We have field officers on the ground within 24 hours, as well as deploying Ontario Corps volunteers and organizations. So we're really there we're a phone call away, and we're there to ensure that the communities have the right resources in place.
And if I could, Minister, in terms of the public, how important is it that they prepare for a potential for emergency? We never think it's going to happen, like an ice storm or that severity. What message do you pass on to the public?
Oh, it's so important to have that 72-hour kit in place, and just the emergency plans. Having that conversation in the house about how would you react to something. And I think in our area with things like an ice storm and being without power for some folks it was a couple of weeks, but to think of what would you need to have in place if you didn't have power for 72 hours. So, when you have no power, you have no access to getting money out of the bank machine, to going to the gas pump in some cases, ensuring that you have some bottled water in the house, so medication. So a lot of those things, I think it's a good conversation to have, obviously prior to an emergency, but I'm sure that those people who have been through an emergency are probably way more prepared now than they were prior to.
And some, obviously, these emergencies like ice storms strike suddenly and, it's immediate. And then you have situations like wildfires that are ongoing, maybe for tabletop. Let's look at the wildfires. And yes, there's been some criticism, too. But what role does the province have in terms of coordination with the feds, with the local municipalities, and how you monitor a situation like a wildfire that is developing, hour by hour, and how challenging that is?
So I'd say there's a lot of people that play a part in wildfire situations. So from the province's piece, we have the Ministry of Natural Resources who are on the ground fighting the wildland forest fires. But then we have my ministry that is helping to evacuate communities as well as relocate those communities into host cities. So there's coordination calls, and I can tell you with the recent storms that the fires that we had as a result of the storms in northwestern Ontario, within a 2-week time period, my ministry had over 100 coordination calls with communities just to ensure that we were getting them ready to be evacuated and then relocated in those communities. With the federal government, we actually did a request for assistance early on, just because what happens is it takes up to 48 hours for a regular request to happen. So we did it, we were early just in case, and we were actually able to use those supports. In one community, we had to have the Hercules come in and help to fly the community out. So my counterpart to the federal government has been fantastic to work with, and we've been able to establish those relationships. I think we all can agree that the safety and wellness of communities and of people is priority for everyone involved. And then directly working with the communities as well, whether it's a municipality or First Nation community. We did the evacuations. And we have 6 communities that have now returned home. But at one time we had 14 communities who had been evacuated. So a lot of work with host cities as well. Barrie has been one of those, and I've heard great conversations from First Nation leaders who were very happy with Barrie and the supports that were given, and what a great community, and everyone really coming together to support.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian for his input, to Gio for piecing it all together and getting the word out, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcasts available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.